All right, once again, good evening. Good evening from Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts. My name's Stephen Koo. I'm one of the admission counselors here at Boston College, and we are very excited to present academics, classes, research, and study abroad for you this evening. I guess first, I would just want to say congratulations to everyone watching, whether you were admitted early decision, regular decision. We are just excited that you're here to learn about more of the academic aspects of Boston College. I am joined by 4 wonderful volunteers, 4 wonderful Boston College students. They are very excited to share their experiences with you from an academic standpoint. So I think tonight will be, a mix of different things. We have a bunch of questions for them that can hopefully address many of the areas that you may be curious about when it comes to those areas academically. These are experienced BC students who are here 24/7, and I think far more than an admission counselor, they're going to be great resources for you in terms of kind of their experiences and what you can expect should you decide to enroll at Boston College. For anybody who's kind of here tonight, right? If you were admitted ED, you've been in the fun part of the process for a long time, just learning more about where you're going to be next year at Boston College, Chestnut Hill. If you were admitted regular decision and still trying to figure out where is going to be your home for the next 4 years, hopefully tonight is helpful. I think it will be. The pressure of this process, a lot of times with applying and trying to figure out where am I going to go, you are in the driver's seat right now. And you've been admitted to, I'm sure, many wonderful schools, and you're trying to narrow down this process. So this is the fun part for you. You kind of get to, I don't want to call it shopping, but you kind of get to go around and see who deserves you to be there. So tonight, hopefully you get a chance to learn more about BC academically. Like I said, academics, so classes, research, and study abroad. The format tonight, pretty simple, I'd say. We're going to go maybe 30-35 minutes with some questions that I have for our students, but you can certainly use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and hopefully maybe the last 20 or so minutes, we will get to questions that you may have for our students when it comes to classes, research, and study abroad. So before I get started, I do want to say this program tonight is kind of the second to last in a series of admitted student virtual panels that we're holding this April. So we also have our final one, which is on Monday, April 25th. That will also be from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's going to be the senior spotlight, and that's seniors who are reflecting upon their time at Boston College. So you can actually go to your applicant status portal. The same way you registered for this program tonight, you can register for that program as well. And if you say, yep, I also want to go to campus this Sunday, you can take a look at your applicant status portal and see if there are any spots available left for Admitted Eagle Day. I know that Admitted Eagle Day may have gotten filled, but I think we're pretty close to being filled. So take a look if you're curious, if you're going to be in the Boston area on this Sunday, April 24th, we do have Admitted Eagle Day. So that's something you can check out and see if you can register for. But for right now, I'm going to turn it over to our panelists. I think the first question, just so you get to know them a little bit, would be, we're going to ask for name, hometown, undergraduate division, major and or minor, and then whatever you'd like to share with us and the audience in terms of your favorite academic experience at Boston College thus far. So I will turn it over at this point to Catherine.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Brewer, and I'm a sophomore here at Boston College in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. I'm majoring in international studies with a concentration in ethics and social justice, double minoring in both history and German, and I'm on the pre-law track. I don't think I already said I'm from Seattle, so I'm from Seattle, Washington. And I think my favorite class that I've taken so far here at BC is actually one I'm in right now, which is called Comparative Politics of the Middle East. And it fulfills the comparative politics requirement of my international studies major. And the reason why I love it so much is, I think it's fascinating to learn about the Middle East and not have the Eurocentric view, which is what my goal is with international studies. But this professor, instead of just constant lectures and things like that, the first half of the school year, we do lectures, like each day is a different country within the Middle East. But for the second half of this course, we're doing a crisis simulation where we're broken down into teams of 4, and each team represents a different country in the Middle East, and we have to do an in-depth study of that country's international policy. We get to represent different figures in their government, and we, starting next Thursday, will actually go through a 3-day-long crisis simulation where we need to diplomatically, militarily, economically make deals and resolve different disputes going on between countries. So it's a really hands-on way to learn about the politics of the Middle East, and especially for pretty much everyone in the class is international studies or poli-sci. It's a really great way to kind of get a sense of what we might actually be doing in the future and feel like you're really learning, not just through lectures and things like that, but actually hands-on experience, which I think represents a lot of classes here at BC.
Okay, so I'm next. Hi, everyone. My name is Gracie Corbett. I'm a freshman in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, double majoring in English and math with a minor in French. And I'm originally from Wayland, Mass, which is about 20 minutes from BC. So BC is right in my backyard. And for my favorite academic experience, I'd like to talk about a class I actually took last semester. It's a freshman only class called Enduring Questions. And so there are 2 classes that fall into this category, Enduring Questions and Complex Problems. And basically, they're classes that are co-taught by 2 professors from 2 different departments, and you look at some topic from those 2 subjects' perspectives. So you get to look at it from maybe a scientific and a historical perspective, literature and communication perspective. And so my particular class was called, it was about the book War and Peace by Tolstoy. And first of all, my professors told me that it will be offered again next spring. So for anybody who decides to come here, I definitely recommend this class. It is really good. Professor Epstein and Professor Eaton are amazing. And so basically we looked at War and Peace from the literature perspective, of course, and from the historical perspective about like 19th century Russia, the serfdom, the emperors, and also the French Revolution, which was sparking Napoleon and whatever. And what I really loved about this course was both that it's a freshman only course and it's super small. So it's a really great way to get to know a bunch of freshmen right off the bat when you're really nervous about, like, maybe you're in bigger lectures or you are in classes with upperclassmen. You get this really small group of freshmen that you get to know right away. And you also do things like going out to dinner or going into Boston to do like bonding so that you really get to know these professors. And the other thing that I really love about just Enduring Questions as a whole is that it wasn't just about like analyzing War and Peace for the sake of literature. We were also asking these enduring questions like, what is worth living for ourselves? So it was a really great way to implement the Jesuit value of reflection into the class. So we were figuring out how these books apply to our lives. How can we use what we've learned from War and Peace and from Tolstoy to figure out what makes us happy, to figure out what we want to do with our lives? And I think Enduring Questions is a really great format for doing that.
Hi everyone, my name's Mary Feldman and I'm a junior in the Lynch School of Education and Human Development from San Diego, California. I'm studying applied psychology and human development and interdisciplinary math and computer science here. So a little handful of things that really mean nothing in the end. And my favorite academic experience so far at BC would definitely be a class I took my freshman year. It's traditionally offered to sophomores. It's called Personal and Social Responsibility, but at BC, we refer to it as Pulse, and it is a dual discipline philosophy and theology class that marries both of those core requirements, ties them up in a nice little bow. All in 1 year, you knock out the whole requirement. For me, as someone who's not particularly spiritual myself, I think it was a really nice way of experiencing the Jesuit values in a way that brought ancient texts to the present day. So it is a reflective and service learning course. Every student in the Pulse program is paired with a community partner at the beginning of the year, and you serve in that same location for 8 to 12 hours every week throughout the whole year. So I would wake up at like 4:30 in the morning every Monday and Friday morning of my freshman year. I would take the Eagle Escort to the T station. I would ride the T, which is our train, into Boston, and I would serve at a soup kitchen for gentlemen and elderly guests impacted by housing insecurity. Every morning I was chefing it up. I learned to use all sorts of new seasonings I've never known how to use before. And I think at the end of the day, it's been my favorite class I've taken at BC and likely will be till the day I graduate. Unfortunately, I took it the year of COVID, so we left in March. So I feel so sad to have missed out on those few months. And my professor, who's iconic, retired, so I can't recommend him to you. But I think it is the most meaningful way to take your philosophy and theology requirements if service is anything that is of interest to you. And there's lots of different community partners. So whether you're interested in working with a certain population or maybe you want to be a teacher. You could work in an after-school program, all sorts of different things. So by no means will you be pigeonholed into any one service placement.
Hi everyone, my name is Sasha. I'm a sophomore, originally also from San Diego, California. I'm double majoring in international studies as well with a concentration in ethics and social justice, as well as majoring in theology and minoring in religion and American public life, all of which are housed in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. And my favorite academic experience, I literally love to talk about this so much, was a class I took the spring semester of my freshman year, which was called Religion and American Public Life, which may sound familiar because I also just said it's my minor. So this was like a 5,000 level theology elective. I was in a bit over my head. I showed up and it was like all upperclassmen. They all were so articulate and they knew what they were talking about. And it was one of those book a week courses. So it was a lot at first. I looked at the syllabus and I was like, oh my goodness, Sasha, what did you get yourself into? But it ended up being one of the most fulfilling courses I've taken throughout my time at BC. I still connect the readings from that course to the rest of my like academic career. I am constantly pulling up those themes that we learned. But what I really took away from it was the professor, Father Mark Massa. He's a Jesuit and he's also the director of the Boise Center for Religion and American Public Life. So that's where my minor is housed through. It's an interdisciplinary minor. So you either apply into the minor, he kind of recruits you from his classes. So he recruited me from the class and I signed up for the minor, and he has served as one of the best academic and just life advisors and mentors I've had throughout my time at BC. He's constantly putting me in contact with professors, people in my professional career that I want to connect with. He's written countless letters of recommendation. He's connecting me with internships. He's just done a lot for me. And it's crazy that had I not signed up for this one-off class that I just liked the name of, I wouldn't be, where I am at BC right now. So that's by and far my greatest academic experience at Boston College.
All right. Thanks to all four of you. That's a great way to get us started. It's funny that I was thinking maybe the next question was going to be about academic advising. And then Sasha, you kind of kicked us off with Father Mark Massa and kind of how he's been a great advisor. But I guess for all four of you, how have you found the advising overall? Because I know, if you're in a particular undergrad division, there could be formal advising right off the bat, or maybe for an arts and sciences, it's a not quite a major specific advisor right off when you start at BC, but eventually it gets to that point. So how have you found the advising to be? And then Sasha, I guess, how easy is it to get to know professors like Father Mark Massa? You took his course and all of a sudden great advisor. Do all four of you have experiences like that as well beyond just kind of the assigned advisor?
Yeah, so I really like to talk about advising because there's a really cool class opportunity that you can take that I highly recommend. It's called a freshman topic seminar. So you would take this in your fall of your freshman year. And it's basically a way for you to pick your advisor through like similar interests. So for example, my advisor is Professor Robert Stanton. And first of all, for any English majors, Robert Stanton, amazing professor. He's my absolute favorite professor I've met so far. He is so helpful with advising. He is so also just down to chat about books, about what he's interested in research, etc. And so what this class was, the reason I found him was because I was interested in the course. It was called the etymology of English words, which I thought was fascinating. And so basically it's a 1-credit course. You meet once a week for about an hour and a half. And in the course, you do whatever the course is about, but it's a small class, about 10 freshman students. You do a lot more of like the bonding stuff outside of class. You go, we went to dinner one day. We also went out to ice cream a different day. And it's basically a really great way to get to know your advisor on a personal basis because you definitely do focus on the class a lot, but it's because it's not like a full credit class. There's a lot more time to just talk to your professor, get to know them personally, get to really be able to build that relationship. And so I highly recommend that because it's a really great way to like learn how to talk to professors, to feel comfortable talking to professors because you are in this situation right at the outset in your freshman year.
Yeah, I would love to jump on this question as well. So Sasha and I are actually fortunate because for IS, you declare in the spring of your freshman year, whereas for other majors, you declare in the spring of your sophomore year. So we got matched with our major advisors about a semester early, which was really, really helpful. And I got paired with my advisor, Professor Ignu Huang, who has been an incredible resource for me. Do you have the same advisor, Sasha? I love that. He's great. And yeah, I second everything that's been said about advising here at BC. They're so supportive, so there to help you. I go to his office probably like twice a semester to go over classes, plans. He's been helping me figure out my plans for this summer. But to piggyback off of what other people have said as well, I don't really know any students that don't have kind of unofficial professor advisors on top of their academic advisor, just through professors they found through classes they love, like Sasha said. And I have a very similar story to her, where a professor I had in the spring of my sophomore year, or my freshman year, sorry, is actually the reason I have my major today, because I was majoring in something else. And we just got to chatting when I would go to her office hours, and she handed me the international studies application and said, "This fits you, you should try this." She was very right. And her and her husband have become incredible resources for me. I've gone out to dinner with them. I've called them on the phone. They have helped me shape my academic experience here and are always there for if I need a ring to stress about classes or get advising, or they've also helped me plan research, which I'm sure we'll get into later for this summer. But I just think, as we can all attest to, the professors here at BC are incredible and always great resources for academic advising on top of your official advisors.
I think like an overarching theme of what everyone's been saying and kind of what like stuck out to me, I guess, is just how much the professors at BC like genuinely truly care about their students. Like what Kate was saying, we all have like so many unofficial advisors just because the professors are so invested in our success, even if you're not good at the class. Like I'm in calculus right now. Excuse me, I've taken computer science before, and I am not Steve Jobs. Like I am not Albert Einstein. I'm not a STEMist, none of that. But nonetheless, those STEM professors, even though I'm an international studies and theology major, they really got to know me and were invested in my success, both in that class and outside of it. So they like follow up on what I'm doing and care about, what I'm actually interested in. Like they'll talk with me about, international studies, things like that. And also really make sure I'm getting the resources I need to excel in their class, but also just as a whole.
All right, thank you. So people know that we have 4 undergraduate divisions, and it sounds like many of you have major, double major, major and a minor, and things that may not be in what we consider like your home school sometimes. But how does that work exactly at Boston College, and how quickly did you figure out that, yeah, I want to pick up something else beyond this major that I thought I'd come into college with? So how has that process been for any of you?
Yeah, I can speak to that. As I was applying to schools coming to BC, I applied for some schools for business, some for chemical engineering, some for elementary education. So my process was all over the board a little bit. I came to BC as an elementary education major, and as I was taking classes where I was student teaching, lesson planning, running my own lessons, I realized that it wasn't exactly for me. However, all the education majors at BC are required to double major. So you have, for secondary education majors, you have a specialty outside of learning just how to teach in methodology and in essence. But the elementary education majors also have to have a second major. So I picked up an interdisciplinary math and computer science major. My dad wanted me to be a woman in STEM. It kind of hit right on that point and tied into the chemical engineering that never happened. And after I switched my major, I changed to applied psychology. Both of those majors, fortunately, are housed in the Lynch School of Education, so it was a pretty seamless transition. But speaking for my friends or other minors that I had outside of the school, BC students love to get their hand in every school and dabble across. Specifically, I would say with even the Carroll School of Management, they have 6 minors that are available to all students within and outside of CSOM. The same is true for Lynch. We have lots of majors that are available as double majors inside and outside of Lynch. I know obviously some of them are dabbling in more schools than one, so they can jump off of that, but the opportunity to study in any school is definitely there. If you have any interest in a specific pre-professional school, I would recommend applying. Well, I guess you guys are already all applied. Just kidding, it's a prank.
Yeah, also to like the second part of your question about how like you were introduced to your majors and everything. So Boston College has this thing called the core curriculum. So it's 15 courses, I believe, in a wide variety of subjects from like math, science, theology, philosophy, history, English, things like that. And you probably noticed there's a lot of theology, a lot of religion in my minors and majors. And if you had told me when I was a senior in high school, like even if as I was getting off the plane to move into Boston College that I was going to end up with these majors and minors, I would have told you you're crazy because I didn't even know what theology meant. I went to a public high school in Coronado. I'm not Catholic, none of that. But I took a class called Engaging Catholicism my first semester at BC. It was like 12th on my preference sheet for what classes I wanted to register for. And that was out of 12 at the time. I don't know how it is now, but it was out of 12. So I saw it on my like classes and I was like, oh gosh, I don't know what that means. And it ended up being amazing. I write this professor all the time. He doesn't teach here anymore, sadly. He just defended his dissertation, so he left and he's going to a different school. But that class truly changed my life, truly changed my academic career. So I think the core curriculum is something to look forward to. Like seriously, take those classes, take the interesting classes within those sections, and you could truly find something you love. It's not something to groan about or be like, oh, I have to take these classes, because I know you'll come into college and you'll have these majors set in your head and you're going to say, oh, I'm going to do this, X, Y, Z, but you never know what's going to come your way. So I think like really look at the core curriculum as an opportunity to truly expand your academic interests and like really treat it with an open mind, because you never know what will come out of it.
Okay. So next question, the difference between the tough courses you took in high school, right? Junior and senior year of high school versus the leap that you had to take to come to BC academically as a freshman. How was that transition for you? How more difficult, I guess, were the classes as a freshman? And then if you ever found some difficulty, or even if you haven't found difficulty, what kind of support services are out there for students at BC?
Yeah, so I think for me, probably the biggest transition is I think a lot of college work is more reading based than maybe in high school. You do a lot more like worksheets and maybe like textbook reading, but there's a lot more like reading primary sources in history rather than just textbook or having like longer readings for books. And so that was a difficult transition, because then you have to figure out like how fast you can read, how quickly is it going to be to get this done. And if you are like a humanities major, especially, most of your classes are going to be reading. So it's not just going to be like your English classes reading, like your history will be reading, English will be reading, theology will be reading, and you have to figure out how you can manage like 100 pages a week. But you figure it out. You have a lot more time as well, because you're only in school about 15 hours, in class about 15 hours a week, as opposed to like 30 for high school. So you have a lot extra time to figure out, to get a little bit of extra time for doing your homework, as well as doing like fun extracurriculars and whatever. In terms of things that you can do to get academic support if you need it, I would say there's like two main things that you can do. We have the Connors Family Learning Center, which it has student peer tutors who can help with writing or specific classes. And so they are always open. You can always go to the website and sign up to have either like a tutor for all year, or like for the whole entire semester, or just like one time you need to help with this one specific test. The other thing that's available is that a lot of departments, I at least just know for like the math and English department, there's like specific tutoring for not just majors in like the math or English department, but they're open for everybody and they're just specific to the department. So for example, there is math tutoring, but run by the math department. So that's more of a like open tutor, and as opposed to like a specific class. So if you just have a general question, and then there's a writing center that's run by the English department as opposed to the learning center. So that's also another opportunity that you can take advantage of.
Yeah, building off of what Gracie said, I think for me, one of the hardest parts about the transition to college, as she kind of alluded to, is that amount of free time, because you have to figure out how to structure your time personally. You're not going to class, 8 to 3 every day, and then you have your extracurriculars, and then you do your homework. I have like a 4-hour gap in my day from my 10 o'clock to I don't have a class till 4. So I think that's a big part of the college transition, is kind of figuring out the schedule that works for you, and the self-discipline of when do you get your homework done, when do you take a break, when do you eat, so you don't have structured like meal times like you do when you're not in college, things like that. But kind of, again, building off of other resources that you have, all professors are required to hold office hours for their classes, which, as we kind of talked about in the last question, are always a fantastic resource. Also, any classes above, I believe it's 60 students, are required to have a TA and be broken down into smaller groups, smaller discussion groups with that TA, who is also then required to hold weekly office hours. So you have multiple great resources directly in that class that you can connect with. And I'm a big fan of the writing lab. I think it's a fantastic way for students to develop kind of writing at the college level, if that's anything that you're stressed about. They have a like graduates and majors in English that will like read over your paper for you and mark it up before you turn it in. So there's a lot of great resources for students to use to help them, especially in those first few semesters of adjusting to college.
All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit to the second prong, I guess, of our session this evening, and that is research. So BC is a research university. I think if you go by the Carnegie classification, we're R1, so that's the top tier in terms of research universities. How readily available do you find research opportunities at Boston College, whether you've done it already? It sounds like a couple of you have done some research or are about to do some research. From professors to administrators to departments, how easy is it to find research opportunities here?
I guess I can start this because I'm kind of in the process of getting ready for research right now. I've kind of done research on two fronts here at BC so far. One, I was fortunate enough, the professors I was talking about earlier, actually, that were they're Susan and John Mahalchevik. They're a married couple in the film and honors department, and they're fantastic. I had a class with them in an Enduring Questions course, second semester of my freshman year. And coming out of that, like I said, we really bonded and I kept in touch with them a lot. And the fall of my sophomore year, they reached out to me and offered this. There's a thing called an undergraduate research fellowship that students can apply for, where it's essentially helping professors with their research or any programs that they might be working on, if they're working on even course planning or research on the side, writing a book, anything like that. You apply to be an undergraduate research fellowship under them, and you get paid to help them with their research. Something that's really cool about BC is I think how undergraduate focused it is. So those research positions go to undergraduate students. So I've been doing an undergraduate research fellowship for them for a year now, and I'm going to continue doing that into my junior year. But the big research that I'm really excited about that I'm doing is I'm kind of doing an unorthodox way of going abroad, where instead of taking a class, I'm doing a research grant that will take me to Germany for 6 weeks this summer. And as I said, I'm a German minor, so I'm trying to immerse myself and get those language skills. But there's several incredible research grants that you can apply for at this school that will fund you. I'm getting about $4,000 to go do this 6-week project on like the refugee crises going on within Germany, which fun fact, I actually applied for this grant with that topic before the current situation with Ukraine. So I had to rework some of my proposal to be a little more modern than I expected, but it's a really incredible opportunity to get to go and immerse myself and really study there on the ground. And both my professor advisors that have been helping me and the people at the grant society themselves have been helping connect me with professors in Germany and activists and even politicians and like newscasters and things like that. So I'm going to get to go do one-on-one interviews and research and access some really cool archives at different libraries over there. So BC is really, really helpful and wants their students to get out in the world and get their hands dirty and try things. And so whether you want to do research here on campus or research out in the broad world, there's a lot of great opportunities that the school will help you find.
I'm actually in the process of doing research right now. So I take a class called Community Advocacy and Research Engagement, run through the Thea Bowman Ahana and Intercultural Center. I know those were mouthfuls, but the class, short, we call it CARE. It's a class you apply into. So I applied into it spring semester of my freshman year, and I've been in it all throughout my sophomore year. You get to pick the topic you want to research. So I'm researching the impacts of parental incarceration on Black youth in the greater Boston area. The whole gist of the class is that you research a topic pertaining to BIPOC individuals in the state of Massachusetts. So many people in my class, well, there's only 7 of us, but our research topics are very, broad, and it's really, really interesting. And it's not something I would have expected to get into. I didn't really know about how feasible it was to get into research as a non-humanities, as a non-STEM major, because I kind of had that perception of just in a lab, like with the beakers and everything. But there are definitely a lot of opportunities to get involved for humanities majors as well. So that's like one super cool opportunity. Kate touched on a couple, but I think there's a lot of opportunities for humanities majors if you look out for them.
Now, Gracie, as a freshman, I know you're kind of exploring some research opportunities for the future. Even as a freshman, are there opportunities for, first year students at BC to kind of get their feet wet when it comes to research?
Yeah, I think there definitely is. I know a few freshman friends, actually, this is more of a STEM thing, who are able to get into labs pretty early on. They were just, there's a lot of like within your major, they'll like send out emails with research opportunities that you can just apply for if you're interested in it. So that's certainly a way to get involved. The other thing that I would recommend, I'm not doing research at the moment right now, but I'm really interested in doing it in the future. And really what my advisor recommended to me is just talk to professors that you're interested, with their research that you're interested in. So if you are taking a class and you really like what the class is about, ask the professor if they have any research that they would need a research assistant for both STEM and humanities. And that's really the best way to get involved, because even if maybe that professor doesn't need help, they'll know other professors that have similar interests and they can point you in the right direction. And it's really quite easy to get research if you're interested in it.
All right, great. We're going to get to the study abroad question in a second, but I do have, Sasha, you mentioned that you're in a class with 7 people. So class sizes in general, right? If we start thinking about, okay, going from high school to college, and I think there's this thought of, oh, all my classes will have 250 people. How am I going to get to know people in my class or my professor? How have your experiences been in terms of, let's go with, I guess, both lectures and seminar style courses? Kind of what experiences have you had so far?
I can start us off. I would say I've had really good experiences with class sizes. It obviously is reflective of my major a little bit. It's a smaller major, but actually the largest class I've taken during my time at Boston College was called Where on Earth, which Kate is very familiar with. It's actually a class with the entire international studies cohort for my year. So all of the 2024 international studies majors took a class together, and that was like 80 to 100 people. But that's the largest class I've taken during my time at Boston College. And when you're registering, you can actually see the class sizes. So for example, I know I would not fare well in a 300-person lecture. That's very much not me. I like to really engage with the content and talk it out. So when I am registering for my courses on Eagle Apps, I'm very aware of searching out those courses that are like 20 and below. And I really have no difficulty finding those because they're very prevalent.
You can go.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I believe the standard, like the average class size here at BC is about 30 undergraduate students. I think the professor to student ratio here is like 1 to 12, I want to say. But so 30 is kind of the average size. So we are a much more smaller classroom environment type of school, which I really enjoy. The only time you really are going to get those big lectures is maybe like freshman, sophomore year, when you're getting kind of like either gen credits for your major or some of the core, depending. Like Sasha said, though, I'm the same. The largest class I've taken is Where on Earth, because I've preferenced classes that are smaller based, because that's what I'm into. Some of my friends I know really like, we have like seminar classes that are once a week, long blocks, and a lot of those can be lectures, which some of my friends absolutely love. They do like 3 of those a semester, because lectures are just what works for them. So you really get to preference, but you can always kind of mold the schedule to what you want. And like I said, it's much more typical here for students to be in more 30-person or less face-to-face connecting type of classes.
I echo that sentiment as well. I really like, especially with my major, I usually have smaller classes, But I will say, actually, one of my classes I'm really enjoying this semester is one of my history core classes, and it's about 75 people in the class. It's early modern Europe. And I really like the class. And what's really amazing is that, as we've talked about before, the professors really want to help you learn. And so in a lecture style class, really the only difference is that you have to be a little bit more proactive in seeking out the professor, because there are way more people in the class. But if you go out and talk to the professor and ask, like, you want to talk more about this subject, they definitely will, even if it's a really large lecture. The other thing is that bigger lectures than like 75 will split up into discussion groups as well, so that you'll have like 20 to 30 kids there, where you'll get to have that more intimate space for discussion. And the last thing I would like to say is that TAs are also really fun to talk to, because especially, like, I'm interested in graduate school, so I was able to not only talk to my TA for this Europe class, like, about the subject matter, but I was just asking her, like, what's it like to be a graduate student? Like, how does that process work? So they're also really excellent resources that you can use.
Mary, you go.
I think most of the points that I would speak to have definitely been hit. It sounds like I have kind of had the most extreme experience. I've had a number theory class that's me and 4 other students, with a professor who exclusively wants us to call her by her first name. I've had classes that are 250 students that break out, and I've been on the other side of it in Gracie's shoes as a teaching assistant for 2 years now, and next year I'll be lucky enough to be an instructor for a course. But I think everybody has kind of hit the points. I don't really have much to add. All back to you.
Well, no, you said something that I want to ask about. I will get to study abroad next, but you've been a TA, and then you're going to be an instructor next year. How do students go about doing that?
Yeah, so first and second semester in the Lynch School of Education, you have to take a class called Experience, Reflection, and Action. It's a full year course with every first year student in the Lynch School. So it establishes that community and almost like a core cohort model immediately from when you come into Lynch. And then I applied to be a TA at the end of that year, because I had TAs who really made my experience for me. It is a 4:30 to 7 or 4:30 to 6 o'clock class Tuesday nights. That's prime time for some dinner, depending on your eating schedule. So it's a little bit of a bugger at times. But my TAs really sold it to me and made my section what it was. So I applied, and then I was a TA last year for the full year. This year, he keeps saying he's going to get to study abroad. I studied abroad last semester, so I wasn't here, and I'm a TA now. And if you're an undergraduate student who is planning to pursue graduate school, I'm not much of a planner, as you guys can all tell. You're able to apply to be an instructor. So a friend of mine who's been a TA the past 2 years as well, and I will be co-instructing, and then she graduates early, and I'll be teaching it with my dean. So that will be fun. Me and the undergraduate dean of Lynch will be co-instructing a breakout session for the same course. So it will be something that I've done all 4 years of my BC experience. And I will say too, in the Lynch School especially, I have definitely a one-on-one relationship with the undergraduate dean. Sometimes she texts me when she thinks of certain opportunities that make her think of me. So I think especially in Lynch, outside of the other schools, you will have those one-on-one connections with an ethic of care immediately available to you.
Wow, fantastic. And now we will ask about study abroad. So if anybody has studied abroad, if anybody is already gone through the process to study abroad, or you're one day planning to study abroad, what would you like to share with our audience today?
I mean, I guess I can start. Like I said, I'm doing kind of an unorthodox method of going abroad, since I'm not doing an actual class. But for if you want to do classes abroad, there's tons and tons of different options. I'm pretty sure we go to every continent except for Antarctica. So you can really go wherever you want, and you can go for a full year or a semester in the fall or spring or in the summer. Typically, if students are going to go abroad, they go sometime surrounding or during their junior year. I believe our pre-COVID numbers were about 50% of the junior class goes abroad, which we're slowly working our way back to as programs reopen, now that we're, knock on wood, starting to move out of this pandemic. But specifically for my major, going abroad is incredibly, incredibly common. It's very encouraged. We also have a language requirement. So a lot of students go where they can develop their language skills for the international studies major. But there's just a myriad of different opportunities. Like I said, you can go for research like I'm doing, or there's hundreds of academic options all across the world.
I apologize. I had some audio difficulties there. I just got back last semester, or I studied abroad last semester in Athens, Greece at the American College of Greece, which is an internal program to BC. It's a partner institution. Basically what that means is all my classes that I took there come back and factor into my GPA. All of the classes I counted, or all the classes I took, count for different requirements. I took a Greek language class. You might think it's a dying language, but I took it. I took archaeology. As I was trouncing around Athens upon the first archaeological sites in the earliest history of the world as we know it. I took an oceanography class, and they would keep calling the Mediterranean Sea the ocean, the ocean, the ocean. I'm like, I'm from San Diego and I go to school in Boston. That is the sea, not the ocean. I took a number of courses that felt extremely relevant to being in Greece at the time, which I actually applied to a different program, which ended up being canceled because of COVID. But I think having courses that are relevant to the location that you're at is a really cool immersive experience. Learning the Greek language a little bit was also very fun to test my skills when I was in local restaurants. We also have external programs. So whether you like the programs that BC offers or not, you could apply to a program through, let's say, NYU or something like that, and still you can take classes that will come back and knock out credits for you, but it won't factor into your GPA. Although I was just going to my classes and traveling around every weekend, it was my highest performing academic semester. So you just never know what you're going to get. But for any student who wants to take that opportunity, even if you're a nursing major with a super structured sequence of courses, the opportunity is definitely provided to you. And if you're someone who it doesn't take a long time to adjust to new things, or you've always been dreaming of doing it, it's definitely an opportunity that I would you should take yourself up upon. And if you have any questions too, my email is in my name, so feel free to contact me because I could speak for a long time about it.
Okay. Oh, Sasha.
Yeah, so I'm going to be studying abroad this summer, actually. I was initially a little bit bummed because I knew I just completing a semester abroad wasn't going to be feasible with me due to my academic plan. But then I realized BC offers summer courses that you can take abroad. So I'm basically just taking a class called The Ethics of Capitalism, Flourishing in a Commercial Society, which is actually offered at like regular time here at BC, like at BC's campus. So I was planning to take it at BC's campus, and then the professor emailed us and was like, hey, would you prefer to take it in Copenhagen, Denmark? And I would obviously said yes. So I filled out like a little application, wrote a couple essays, and then I was admitted to the program. However, financials were a bit difficult for me for that. So I was also able to apply to something called the McGillicuddy-Logue Travel Grant Program, which I received, which covered about like 75% of the cost of my going abroad, which was huge for me. So I think no matter like what background you come from, no matter your academic plan, no matter your financial situation, BC really makes abroad, accessible to everyone if you seek out those resources. So, no matter your circumstance, I think at least look into traveling abroad because it's definitely accessible to everyone.
And I just want to mention one more study abroad opportunity. Actually, first of all, Catherine, I think, mentioned that like we get people on 6 continents. I have to say this because earlier I was on a panel and somebody told me that somebody actually did research in Antarctica. So we got all 7 continents. I feel like that's impressive. Anyways, going back to study abroad, I am a freshman, so usually study abroad stuff happens sophomore year, so you don't really have to worry about that freshman year. I would start, if you're planning on it, I would talk to your advisor about it so they can help you with the academic planning about what courses you might want to take, save for like taking abroad, because usually people will do major requirements abroad rather than core courses. But another opportunity in the summer, which I'm really interested in doing, is an internship program. And we send students about 8 countries, I think, where you will be doing an internship for 8 weeks. BC helps pair you with an internship with a homestay, and you basically just get to live in the country like any other person going to work every day. And I think that's a really cool opportunity. And it's especially cool because I am a French minor. So for the language-based ones where you'll be working in the language that not English, I think it's a really great way to develop language skills as well.
All right, fantastic. I know we've gone about 45 minutes, and I want to make sure we answer. We have a couple of questions that have been asked in the Q&A. I know we talked a bit about research, and one of the questions that has come up is research topics available for those in the natural sciences, especially considering Boston is a healthcare hub. So I know, Gracie, you had mentioned a couple of your friends who are freshmen and they're already in labs. I don't know, in general, when you start talking about natural sciences, STEM fields, what sorts of opportunities do you believe are available both on campus and perhaps in Boston as well?
I guess I can start with this one. I am not personally involved in the natural sciences, obviously, but I can speak to my friends and what I've heard. I have several friends that are involved in pre-med, pre-dental, nursing, and just general STEM, not rooted in healthcare. And all of them have found some incredible opportunities. There's pre-med and pre-dental tracks that students can get involved in. And the fact that we are in Boston is incredible for our health departments here. If you're interested in nursing, you're in the College School of Nursing and you start doing like pracs and go into the hospitals your sophomore year. One of my roommates is doing that right now. She goes in once or twice a week, I believe. That's a different world than I can do. She gets up at like 4 a.m. Mary, I know you said you did that too for Pulse. I could absolutely never, but she loves it. And you really get that hands-on experience. The same goes for pre-med students and pre-dental. There's a lot of great opportunities to intern in Boston and really take advantage of those incredible hospitals that are around us. But if you're interested in just the natural sciences, not based in health, as we've kind of talked about, there's incredible research opportunities on campus, and we have some great professors that are always doing different research during the school year, during the summer, that you can get involved in. And also something that we haven't really talked about yet here is the alumni network at BC is insane. I can truly say, at least talking to my friends from home and friends I know from other schools, I don't know any other school that rivals it. BC alums are insane in the best way. And so there's always great connections that professors can connect you with, or we have a website called Eagle Exchange, which is exclusively for BC students and BC alums to connect and for the alums to offer jobs or offer advising to our students. And so I know a lot of friends in the natural sciences that have gotten really great opportunities, either in Boston or when they go home for the summer in Florida, in New York, in Chicago. There's BC alums all over the country that they've gotten some really incredible research opportunities or health field internships.
One of my housemates is a physics major. She's not on the pre-med track or anything like that, but she's been working in a lab in Higgins, which is one of our STEM buildings here on campus for the past 3 years. I'm not sure exactly what she does in there, but it seems like it's pretty free-form hours where the professor who she's doing research for just emails her and says, can you come in at this time and run this test? Her older sister actually graduated from BC and was a biochem major, and still to this day as a graduate is a full-fledged researcher in the same lab that she worked at as an undergraduate. And she's going on to UPenn to pursue her PhD, I believe, next year. She works in a fish lab. My freshman year, I took a class called Science and Technology in American Society, which is another one of those complex problems courses Gracie was talking about. That was science and history. And I was given a temperature sensor for my lab. And naturally, my group, none of whom had any fishing experience, decided that we would track biodiversity in the Charles at different points along the river based on temperature. So I would go to the 4th floor of this in Higgins to my fishing professor, biology man. He has all these fish tanks in his lab, to his room, and I would borrow his son's fishing pole as I would go to the Charles to do my fishing. I had a Massachusetts freshwater fishing license there for a period. But I think all that goes to show that even after you graduate, if you are deeply invested in this research that you're doing with whatever professor, opportunity is definitely still there to continue, no matter if fish are your specific interest.
All right, thank you. That was awesome. I have not heard that sort of research, but that was amazing. Lots of opportunities. I guess the last academic question that we have here, Perhaps this is for Mary, perhaps, or else others. The question is about what types of opportunities are available for computer science majors for engagement outside of class. I know, Mary, you're not exactly a computer science major, but I don't know, kind of given some of the things you're doing, have you kind of seen what are some opportunities for those majors?
Yeah, I can speak to it a little bit, and then if anybody has a friend who's a full-fledged comp sci major and wants to jump on, feel free. I would say at BC, no matter your major, there's a ton of pre-professional clubs that are available to you. We don't have Greek life, but we do have 353, I believe the number is these days, student-run organizations. BC students are extremely passionate about the clubs that they run. And I believe there is like a CS society of some sort for students to do different networking with people who graduated from BC who used to be CS majors and are young alumni. There's also like a coding competition, different like coding challenges that come around. I just saw an article today. I don't know if you guys are big wordlers out there. I can't see you or your reactions, but a comp sci freshman, I think, no, maybe he's a sophomore, recently created like a BC specific Wordle with his comp sci knowledge, all terms that are relevant to BC, whether those are like academic buildings or little phrases we have here, all sorts of things. Last night I had a lot of trouble. That was the first time I've ever played. But there's definitely opportunities, especially with CS. I think in some ways you create your little thought babies and make them happen. So the world is your oyster, I would say. I don't know if anyone knows someone who has done something specific.
Looks like no takers. I know, I mean, BC does participate in hackathons and I think a lot of programming competitions. And I think that, we have this brand new building, 245 Beacon Street, that it is the new home for computer science, the new home for engineering, the new home for entrepreneurship. And, I feel like what BC is trying to do from an interdisciplinary standpoint is allow so many different disciplines to come together. So computer science, certainly having this new home there, a lot more opportunities for the students there in terms of collaboration, in terms of, you could have a Carroll School of Management student say, I have this kind of business model, but I need the computer science programmer person. I need kind of the entrepreneurship person. And I would say that with this new building that opened, which will eventually be named, I'm sure, there are just a lot more opportunities for students to engage with each other, collaborate with each other. We talk about kind of design thinking and maker spaces, but computer science certainly is one where I feel like there are going to be a lot more opportunities and already have been, as I think it is probably the fastest growing major at Boston College at this point. All right, so I know we're almost out of time and we have actually finished all the Q&A. So I have maybe one final question. All right. All of you now have a lot of BC under your belt, right? You have, and hopefully this year has felt like a normal year, more or less, right? Compared to previous years. What would you say to someone coming to Boston or thinking of coming to Boston College as a freshman? What would you say in terms of how quickly do you feel you acclimated to the academic environment at Boston College? And then what type of environment do you find BC to be?
In terms of acclimating, I went to a trimester high school that was deeply STEM oriented. So I think the speedy pace that I was used to coming from high school allowed me to adjust pretty quickly. I was pretty involved back home and here. So I think in some ways I like transplanted my high school self just to BC. In terms of my performance, I definitely felt my ego knocked down a few pegs, but just using office hours as a resource, I performed pretty similarly in high school to now throughout my whole BC career and have slowly been on the up and up each semester, although that might change after this number theory class. And I would say that my adjustment, other than like adjusting a little bit to college writing or understanding that different professors have subjective likes in their grading, for example. Other than that, I haven't had too much of a difficult adjustment academically. I would say that it came on pretty fast for me, but I know that's not the normal experience, just having come from a pretty intense high school in the past.
First of all, I don't know what just happened with my lights. They just turned off all of a sudden. Sorry about that. I think for me, I think the main thing that came to my mind when you said that was that, so I'm a second semester freshman right now, and I feel like I felt pretty normal first semester. I definitely used a lot of my high school strategies for studying and talking to professors or whatever. And so it all felt pretty similar, but coming in as a second semester freshman, I feel like there's definitely a difference in just how comfortable I felt doing the whole college thing. I felt comfortable picking classes because I'd already done it once. I was comfortable going up to my professor the first day. I wasn't so nervous about it anymore. Seeing an enormous amount of essays coming my way in the future, that didn't panic me so much anymore because I'd already done it once before. So I definitely feel like I came in pretty solidly. But doing it once is really helpful. You won't, as long as you can get through that first semester, coming the second semester, it'll just feel it'll feel normal. It'll feel like this has been your life, all your whole life.
Yeah, I would definitely echo that. I think for me, it was beginning of second semester freshman year where it really felt like, okay, I've got this. I know what I'm doing. But yeah, to build off of what everyone else has said, I think as long as you take advantage of office hours and kind of mostly just put yourself out there, connect with your professors if you're doing well, connect with your professors if you're not, and focus on building those relationships. I think the climate here at BC is really collaborative and really supportive, both in the professionals and the professors and in the students. So if you're willing to put yourself out there and connect, or pretty much every class I'm in the first week, someone will be like, hey, we're making a group chat, everyone put your numbers in, and people kind of connect that way. So as long as you're willing to put yourself out there, to connect with the students, to connect with the professors, I think that really helps make the transition easy. But I would agree. I mean, you're gonna get knocked down a few pegs first semester of college. It happens to everyone, so don't take it to heart too much. Everyone's going there. But yeah, just put yourself out there. And I would agree that second semester freshman years, hopefully when you start to feel like you're really getting the groove of everything.
Yeah, I would say Kate and I's transition was a bit interesting because we were transitioning into a COVID year, but kind of coming into this year, I guess, and also last year, I think just the biggest change was that I was able to pick the classes I wanted to take. It wasn't so much of the standardized curriculum that I was used to in high school. I was really able to take things that I was passionate about and kind of really look into the classes, look into the professors, and just have a lot of say in what I wanted to study. And also the timing thing, that the classes aren't 1 through 6. I actually was just the Naval Academy for a week. And if you're familiar with the Naval Academy, they still do the 1 through 6. It's like high school. And I was with my plebe, the person I was staying with. And I was like, I could not imagine doing that again. Yeah, it's hard to feel like an adult and also have that 1 through 6 schedule that you're so used to. I think that does come, oh, her sister goes there. I think that does come with a bit of difficulty about figuring out what schedule works for you, because people will rave about oh, this type of schedule is amazing. And then you try it and you're like, oh, this does not work for me at all. So that's a bit of an adjustment. But I think once you figure that out, it's amazing. College is really fun academically, and the amount of freedom you get to pick your own schedule and pick what you're interested in is so awesome. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I see that our time is up, and I just want to say thank you so much to our 4 panelists today for sharing your experiences and insight with our audience today or this evening. And for those who are watching right now, again, congratulations on your admission to Boston College. Whether you've already decided to come to BC or you're still trying to figure it out, hopefully tonight was helpful, at least from an academic transition perspective. We can't thank you enough for having interest in Boston College. And if you do want to learn more about BC, certainly you can go back to your applicant status portal, check out kind of the additional programs that we still have going through the end of through the end of April, leading up to May 1st. And I think the last plug would be, if you enjoyed tonight's virtual panel, we have one more left. It is a spotlight on seniors, and that will be Monday, April 25th from 7 to 8 p.m. But again, you could sign up through your applicant status portal. But once again, thank you so much. And from Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, we wish you all a very good evening. All right. Thanks so much. Take care.